Do not ask me to remember. Don't try to make me understand. Let me rest and know you're with me. Kiss my cheek and hold my hand. I'm confused beyond your concept. I am sad, sick and lost. All I know is that I need you, to be with me at all cost. Do not lose your patience with me. Do not scold or curse or cry. I can't help the way I'm acting. Can't be different, though I try. Just remember that I need you, that the best of me is gone. Please don't fail to stand beside me. Love me till my life is done. This is the story of 3 victims that have been affected by the chronic disorder of dementia. I'm here, but not with you.
My first memory of Alzheimer's was probably towards the end of my high school, when the first real sort of episode my granddad had, where he sort of forgot where he was for basically a full afternoon, 4 hours in Newcastle. He got home, he didn't know where he'd been or anything like that. And your first episode really hits home, and then with the different levels of deterioration, but from the first episode backwards, you know that it's only going to get worse, and that was my first memory.
I'm 60 years old now, and I was diagnosed with young onset Alzheimer's on the 31st of July 2014 at the age of 58. My children found it quite a shock when we got the diagnosis, as dementia hadn't been mentioned anywhere along the line.
And in the late 90s, Jim's personality started to seem to change a little. He went from being a very outgoing, gregarious and sociable man to becoming slightly introvert, slightly withdrawn, quite a volatile person.
It affects different families in different ways, but there's no doubt that having somebody in the family diagnosed with dementia has a huge impact on the family and the relationships. Having a diagnosis can mean all sorts of things for the person depending on where they are in their life. So somebody who gets an early diagnosis, maybe if they're a younger person with dementia, they might still be in work, they might have a mortgage to pay, they might have younger children. So that can really transform family life. If somebody's an older person, then that can mean they might have to start thinking about whether they'll be able to continue living at home, particularly if they live by themselves for the longer term. So it has a huge impact on families, and as dementia progresses, people tend to have a greater degree of disability, and so will need more care. And so families are the ones who step in and will be the care providers for the majority of that care.
You didn't even know whether they were speaking to you or they were speaking to someone else. They wouldn't know, I wouldn't know. There's an issue with the whole family where the grandparents aren't enjoying their retirement, they don't know what's going on, they've worked all lives to get to this point, and it's been taken away from them. My first personal experience was when I'd go and visit my grandparents in the care home as such, because from the first episode to when I saw them in a care home, it was get them out of where they were as soon as possible, because they're only going to cause themselves danger as such, and anything could happen. I decided to do the Ironman race. It started out more for myself. I moved more towards what was going on outside of myself and what was more going on with my family, and give me another impetus to do something else. Like, I'll pull on my Alzheimer's shirt and I'll think, I think about my grandparents definitely, and the thing that gets me most sort of motivated towards doing things for my grandparents is because you feel as though a lot of their life's been taken away from them.
The children are not managing it that well, really. They have great difficulty in seeing the deterioration in their dad, and they tend probably not to see him as much as they would normally like to, because I can see how painful it is for them. When you see your dad not able to recognise you, perhaps, it must be very heartbreaking for them. Jim and I actually met at work, go back in the 1970s. We were both quite active socially and also in sport. In the year 2000 to 2003, the doctor was observing him and he was actually diagnosed with Alzheimer's. One of the main memories for me is we were going up to Liverpool and Jim got lost and he couldn't find his way to my mum's. And that was like a milestone. Obviously, that was a big effect for me. When Jim actually took it on board himself was the day he knocked the car. And he was only pulling on the drive, and from that day, he never drove the car.
And then the news was actually bizarrely a relief, because it put an end to all the uncertainties of not knowing why I was having all the strange symptoms at the time. My children found it quite a shock when we got the diagnosis, as dementia hadn't been mentioned anywhere along the line, as I'd had a couple of minor strokes the 18 months prior. Dementia came as quite a shock to all of us, but we simply sat down and talked about it, because talking is the one thing you have to do when you're diagnosed with anything that's as serious as dementia. People who were close to me stopped emailing me because they assumed it was purely out of ignorance, really. They assumed that when they heard the word dementia, that I was at the end of the journey. I've noticed many, many changes in my life simply because dementia does make you focus on the here and now. Because when you're diagnosed with a debilitating, progressive, terminal illness, it does focus your mind on the here and now.
So for married couples, it can bring all sorts of different things that they might have to consider. You might end up having to deliver personal care to your spouse, and that can be really difficult for both partners in a relationship.
I miss what we would all call the old days, you know, when he's active and his sports and his humour and the big guitar things, and having lots of friends here and lots of people, because we were always having social events, parties, big part of our church as well for events. But it's not to be now. So instead of thinking about those things, you just have to say, yeah, he's here. You know, he's funny when those little insights, and I'm just grateful I've got him. We've been through a lot of crisis through the years, as you would imagine, because the front and temporal lobe dementia, like all dementias, is a very demanding disease on the person who's got it. They're always right, even when they're wrong, because it stops any argument. Never ask questions, because a question is like, sending a bomb off in their head, because they're trying to muddle through all these different areas to try and find an answer. And just be as caring and as gentle as you can, which through the years has been difficult. Jim's had some very volatile stages. His guitar, sadly, he can't do anymore. And his sports, all those things have gone. His cognition isn't good, but you've got to find joy in every day, and every so often you get just little glimpses. Something will come and he'll know what is going on in life and who you are and what it's all about. And that's the best way to try and manage forward. No point in looking too far forward, because we know how it's going to be. So maybe for me it's just living day to day, seeking joy and where I can. But the other important thing is to seek help and accept help. You can't do it on your own, can you?
I do miss spending time with my grandparents. Obviously, a lot of the time was spent in Hexham, in Northumberland, just exploring the area where my dad grew up, and the stories he has to tell about my grandparents and the area he grew up in. It's just all that's been taken away now, you know, and you always think, could I have done more, could I have asked more, could I have said more? But I think you've just got to be happy with what memories you do have rather than concentrate on what you don't have. Both my grandparents died in 2014, my granddad first and then my grandma soon after. I remember I just got home from work and they told my dad that my granddad just had a big turn in the hospice, so he flew across and my dad reckons that my granddad had already passed by the time they'd rung, but they didn't want my dad to do anything drastic, such as drive recklessly or anything.
Since being diagnosed, I found it harder and harder to use the telephone, even though in my previous world the phone was as easy as typing my blog.
Dementia Diaries is a project that's set up by On Our Radar, who are a company based in London, who are journalists who are interested in getting the voices of people who wouldn't normally have a voice out there into journalism and into the public. So the Dementia Diaries part of the work that they do looks at how we get the voices and experiences of people with dementia out into newspapers, press, websites and to the population.
I first heard about Dementia Diaries through the support group that I go to in York. It's a group of just people with dementia who meet once a month to share stories and share coping strategies. Dementia Diaries came to talk to us one day to see if we'd be interested in having the little contraptions that they give out as well. And it enables people with dementia to say what they want to say at the time that it comes into your head, because often with us, once the moment's passed, the thoughts have passed as well.
One of the things we'll be evaluating is the impact of taking part in the Dementia Diaries on the people who are taking part as diarists. So we're going to look at why they take part, what's the benefits in it for them, and what they feel that it's contributing to changing perceptions of dementia within society.
Yes, it helps you to voice your opinion when something makes you happy or something annoys you, when something makes you sad, whatever the emotion, you can immediately capture those thoughts by recording them. It's a great little resource.
If I had the chance to speak to my grandparents again, I'd just like to say thank you. I don't think I ever, because once they had dementia, you didn't know whether any information went in or anything like that. So I'd love to say thank you for what they've given me.
People with dementia, it's important to keep their world steady, small, not too busy.
I no longer plan a year ahead. I plan for next week and next month, and I look forward to today. I enjoy the moment of today because you never know what tomorrow might bring.